Welcome to The Explainer. Listen, today we're treating this like a high-level boardroom briefing. We're looking at the exact, battle-tested systems used by Apex operators to design totally exceptional lives and businesses. We're talking about architecting excellence here. So, if you're an ambitious executive looking to truly separate yourself from the pack, you are in exactly the right place. Okay, let's dive into this. The source materials hit us with a profound truth right out of the gate. Excellence is not accidental. It is architected. Think about that for a second. Success just isn't about luck. It's not about stumbling into the right room at the right time. No way. It is about rigorous, literal, military-grade execution. It's about designing your life, your goals, and your mental frameworks so intentionally that failure essentially isn't an option. So here's the docket for today's explainer. We're breaking down 5 core operational pillars. 1. Mindset. 2. Emotional intelligence. 3. Strategic goals. 4. Boundary setting. And 5. Anti-fragility. Let's get to it. All right, pillar number 1, the high performer mindset, or as we can call it, building the armor. We're starting here because as an executive, you are the absolute architect of your reality. Before you can conquer the market or negotiate some massive deal or lead a team, you literally have to conquer your own morning. The source material lays out what it calls daily operational armor. Now, it kicks off with a 5 a.m. wake-up protocol. But, the crucial part isn't just the time on the clock. It's what you don't do. The very second you open your eyes, you do not reach for your phone. No Slack, no checking Stripe, no emails. Yes, that means resisting the urge to check if the world ended on Slack while you're asleep. Because as the sources point out, if you react to the world first thing, you've already lost the day. Instead, you prioritize hydration over digital reaction, getting water and electrolytes into your system before anything else. It's all about brutal simplicity, cutting the fat from your routine, and taking complete ownership of your outcomes. This right here is the lion mentality. You wake up with laser focus and intention, signaling to the world that you are the one in control. Moving right along to number 2, mastering emotional intelligence, the internal foundation. So the crucial point is, a lot of folks think of emotional intelligence as this kind of fluffy, soft skill, right? Something nice to have, but maybe not essential for hard-hitting business. But in the context of high performance, it is tactical empathy. It's literally your strongest piece of armor. Tactical empathy and low reactivity is the ability to maintain a sturdy emotional center and fluid control over physical and mental movements, rendering you completely unfazed by external stressors. This kind of emotional mastery acts like a shield against chaos. When the world throws irritants and massive frustrations at you, your low reactivity proves that whatever's coming your way is just a puzzle that you can effortlessly solve. Let's actually contrast the emotionally reactive individual with the emotionally intelligent high performer. The average reactive manager, they panic, they stutter, they let their emotions swing wildly up and down based on whatever the latest crisis is. But the Apex executive, they use silence as a tool. Think of James Bond, ambushed by assailants or facing some high-stakes global threat, yet he remains completely cool, calm, and methodical. The smooth, emotionally intelligent executive slows their movements down. They don't get thrown off their frame, and they maintain absolute, unwavering control. Pillar number 3, strategic goal setting, constructing the engine. Okay, so now that your internal foundation is rock solid, we shift into forward propulsion. But we absolutely have to remember, mere motion does not always equal progress. You need a highly tuned engine. Elite operators, they don't just cross their fingers and wish for success. They use a 5-year blueprint reverse engineering system. Step 1, you define your long-term ultimate vision. Step 2, you work backwards from that vision to set incredibly specific quarterly milestones. Step 3, you ruthlessly prioritize tasks that align with that big picture. And step 4, you execute relentlessly without a second of hesitation. You are literally reverse engineering your ambition into a highly actionable operational timeline. And you know what this does? It completely cuts through decision fatigue, because every single day when you wake up, you already know exactly what moves the needle. And this brilliantly illustrates how you align those daily actions. You use the SMART alignment framework. Your goals must have a specific focus. They need measurable progress loops so you can actually track your wins and pivot if you need to. You need achievable daily actions, complete relevance to your ultimate vision, and time-bound urgency to really force that discipline. What you're doing here is turning abstract desires into concrete, metric-driven targets that force you to grow both intellectually and professionally. But look, having a perfectly mapped out plan isn't going to do you any good if you overthink it. Check out this principle inspired by Miyamoto Musashi: move first, think later. Relentless execution kills hesitation. High performers do not wait around for the perfect moment because, spoiler alert, that moment never comes. They strike without delay. Overthinking is honestly just a fancy word for paralysis. Elite operators treat failure as fuel, not as fear. The faster you fail, well, the faster you learn, adapt, and ultimately master your craft. Which brings us to number 4, professional boundary setting, building the fortress. You can have the absolute best goals and flawless execution, but your entire empire is going to crumble if your time and focus are constantly being breached by outsiders. Defensive sovereignty, it's non-negotiable. This is exactly where sovereign interruption protocols come into play. High performers gatekeep their time with military precision. They strictly protect their deep work blocks. They enforce a strict no-pitch rule within their elite networks to ban any predatory sales tactics. They operate under the Chatham House rule for absolute discretion, meaning, hey, strategic ideas can be shared, but identities remain strictly confidential. And they use an immediate triage system for crises. If you're deep in a work block and a vendor just shows up unannounced, your chief of staff holds them in the lobby. End of story. Your focus has to be treated as sacred. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that bold $10,000 figure. In truly elite networks, privacy and boundary policies are totally useless unless there's a real penalty attached. This right here represents a liquidated damages cost. If you breach member confidentiality or disrupt the focus of the group, boom, there is a massive, pre-agreed financial penalty to cover reputational damage. It sends a crystal clear signal to everyone involved that you are deadly serious about discretion in protecting your intellectual real estate. And of course, when boundaries are inevitably tested, these elite networks use a crisis management triage matrix. They categorize issues instantly. A Tier 1 crisis, say a personal misunderstanding or a messy divorce, grants the member sanctuary status, meaning they are totally supported and given a private space to recover away from all the noise. But a Tier 3 crisis, a toxic event that actually threatens the collective reputation, that triggers immediate severance. Zero hesitation. The boundary is heavily enforced just to protect the integrity of the whole. Finally, pillar number 5, the anti-fragile executive, using stress as fuel. Let's move to and see how this builds. True high performers, they don't just survive chaos and stress. They actively use it to grow stronger and sharper. This brings us to the anti-fragility quotient, or AQ tiers. The sources break this down just perfectly. On the low end, if you're scoring a 0 to 39, you are fragile. Stress causes your performance to degrade, and recovery takes way, way longer. But if you score an 86 to 100, you are apex anti-fragile. For these top-tier individuals, stress actually becomes a training stimulus. They don't break under pressure. They use it as pure, high-octane fuel to optimize their next move. So how exactly do you elevate your AQ score to that apex level? Well, here are the core traits. First, they return to productive action within 24 to 72 hours post-failure. Second, they treat failure purely as data. It's just information, not a final verdict on their personal identity. Third, they rapidly stabilize their physiology, meaning they ruthlessly prioritize their sleep, nutrition, and training to reset their nervous system after a major stressor. And fourth, they have genuine intellectual humility. They are constantly unlearning dead strategies. Resilience isn't some magic trick. It's a highly trainable mechanism based entirely on these specific habits. We've covered the mindset, the tactical emotional intelligence, the strategic goal setting, the boundary defense, and the anti-fragility required to be a true apex operator. But the material leaves us with this final, really hard-hitting thought to ponder. Will you sacrifice to achieve your goals, or will you let your goals become the sacrifice? The blueprint to architecture excellence is sitting right here in front of you. The only question left is, are you actually ready to execute? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I challenge you to take these principles and apply them today.